It skips a character. Now it says read the rest of the line. What's the rest of the line? Cat space ran space slowly. That's the rest of the line. All right? Supply the missing statement. What's the missing statement? Look at the comment. The algorithm's comment says read a value, so that's the missing statement. How do we read? We're going to say get a value for num. Where does the value come from? We're going to read a value from the input file. Where's the input file? It's attached to the stream NF, right? How do we double the value stored in a variable? What is this? What does B mean? B means answer equals 2 times answer. So B is one of them. All right? What does C say? It says answer is equal to answer times 2. Double answer, store it back into answer. So B and C are the answer. What happens here? This is the question that is probably the most, uh, it's a little tricky because you got to think it through carefully. If I try to read something, I'm trying to read a number followed by a letter. Then I'm checking to see if that read failed. What will cause this read to fail? Didn't we say that if I'm reading a number and I read a character, I cannot read the number? I get stuck because I'm looking for digits. I'm not looking for letters. So it's clear that if I attempt to read num and hit letters, then it will fail. What's the question? What input must be typed for the output to be oops? When do we produce oops? When it fails. So the input is two keystrokes, a 7 and an X. Okay? What order should they be presented if you want to fail? If you put the X first and then the 7, I try to read a number. I hit the X, I'm stuck, I can't proceed. Then I will read the letter. I can read the letter, but I never will reach the 7. So this is about what inputs are required to make the program produce a certain output. All right. I think you've seen so many of these. You saw this before, didn't you? But what's that question here? The operator with the highest precedence in this whole expression. Which thing must be done first? Is it this? 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 Or is it this? And clearly we do arithmetic first. So if you look at all the operators for arithmetic, the strongest one is the multiplication. So it's E. 24 is another trace. So it says, show the sequence of lines executed. Average is 68, so we must execute line 1. Line 2 we execute. It's a condition. Is average greater than 90? The answer is no, so this is a false. Where's the consequence? Line 3 is the consequence. We don't execute it. Instead, we look for the alternative. Where's the alternative? Else if. This else is tied to this if. So after statement 2, we go to statement 4, which is the alternative. So the sequence will be 1 and 2 and 4. What happens at 4? Is the average greater than 80? No, it's 68. So I don't execute 5. Where am I? I don't execute 5, I execute 6, which is the alternative. At 6, I'm saying you're checking to see if average is greater than 68, and what's the answer? No. So I don't execute 7, instead I go to 8. At 8, what do we say? Is average greater than or equal to 55? Yes, it is. So now we execute the consequence, which is line 9. So we have 1. At 2, we skip to 4. 4, we skip to 6. 6, we skip to 8. At 8, The condition is true, so we execute the consequence. After the consequence, we go to the end of the whole if. Where's the end of the if? This if has a consequence, has an alternative here, which we must skip. And the alternative ends here. So after we leave this decision construct, the first statement that's outside of that construct is 12. So that's how we do the trace. Now, what's going on here? We read a number and we compare the number. It looks like we want to compare the number to 12. But what are we doing wrong here? Well, what happens here? N equals 7. What kind of an expression is that? That's an assignment expression, which means the result of it is the number 7. So it's almost like you have if 7. That's the statement here. And what is that, true or false? It's true. So you always will execute the consequence. This statement is not part of the if, it comes after the if. So you would say that. What's the solution? The solution is we should have said if x is compared, if n is compared for equality against 7. So this is a case of not putting an equal equal. Okay? So I think that is the end of the test. And some of this stuff I have suggested that you always work with someone so you can explain what the answers are. Oh, by the way, what if we, last thing we're going to do, what if we do this? What if we just copy this and put it in our little code and see what happens? Let's do this. Take all this out. Let's do this. And we're going to say my bad. Some of y'all are going to say, we don't have time to do this. I know. When you're learning something, you got to see it work. Control. Let's put in the number 7. And it's going to say, boom. Let's put in another number, 4. It's going to say that. Put in any number, 0. It's going to say that. So, okay? And how do you fix it? If you put the equal equal there, if I put in 4, what is it going to say, rattlers? If I put in 7, what is it going to say, strike